Welcome to Greg's Maker Corner. In this video, I'm going to be going through the Bambu Lab A1 combo unboxing and also building it, assembling it, and going through some of my perspective on this printer. And if you've been watching my channel for any length of time, you know that I'm mostly into DIY machines like VZBots, Vorons, Hypercube Evolutions. I have build series on all those machines. So why am I looking at a Bambu? And really there's a few reasons. The first reason is I want to get back into multicolor printing. I have not really done that in a while, since the Palette 2. Another reason is, does it just work? It would be nice for me to be able to recommend to people printers that just work and you don't have to do a whole lot of tweaking. It's hard for me to do that unless I've tried out the machine. I'm not planning on getting away from DIY anytime soon, but I definitely want to understand, are these machines going to live up to the hype? So stay tuned and let's see how this thing does. And first up, I'm going to go ahead and unbag the accessories here. In the mega bundle, you can get these extra parts. So these are the silicone socks for the hot end. I think it's always a good idea to run these silicone socks on your printer, because these are going to help make sure that your hot end stays at the temperature you want it at. So when that cooling fan blows, it doesn't struggle to keep the temperature on there. So you've got a 0.4, these are labeled 0.4, 0.6, and 0.2. So I can get some really fine details. If you need to replace it, you replace this entire piece. Go ahead and take that out of the wrapper here. Get a closer look. Yeah, it's got a little covering and it's double-sided, so it's smooth PEI. We got smooth PEI on this side and smooth PEI on that side. And now I'll go ahead and unbox the main A1 printer here. I think from the time it shipped, it only took a few days over UPS, so it wasn't long at all. Okay, first thing I notice here is it does tell you to keep the box, and there's also a tutorial that you can scan and watch. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. Let's go ahead and get it open. We got a nice Bambu Lab cardboard there. This is pretty cool. Okay, so here's that textured plate. Then it's got a nice wrapper here. All right, so I've got it all out in one piece. I'm going to set it on my workbench. So here it is. Here's how it arrived. Everything's nice and tightly packed. I like the foam here. Nothing appears to be damaged at all. That's interesting. There's like some Whopper juice or some kind of grease stains there. Okay, this has all the tools in it that you're going to need for assembly. I'll open that in a minute. Just a little booklet. Looks like instruction manual. And there's a few other things in there. This is the engine model components. I think a lot of the stuff here is going to be used for the AMS. And then we've got the AMS Lite instruction manual as well as the PEI plate. So this is a textured on both sides. Oh, this is cool. It's the filament swatches. So if you want to see what all the different colors are available for Bambu, you can take a look at this. Let's take that out. And here's what the filament swatches look like. This is pretty neat. And on the swatch, you can see the name of it. So like this one's PLA Matte 11300 and so on. So if you're wanting to get a specific color, you can check it out, inspect it. Bambu apparently offers a lot of different filaments. I had no idea they had this many. And there are 4 of these different pieces here, and these are used for the AMS Lite. And this is just what you set your spools on. Now we've got the top shelf done. We're going to move on. And this is going to be part of the AMS Lite. And this is all just sturdy plastic here. And we've got the AMS kind of main unit here. There's a zip tie on it. I'm sure that's going to have to come off. And then here's your cord. And then all that's left at this point is the printer. So I do like the way it's packed. I'm surprised there's not maybe one piece of foam versus a bunch of smaller pieces. I like how they've kind of secured this. So the tool head, hot end piece here is all foamed in, zip tied in. And I'm just going to lift this out and set that there. And there's a few more things in here. There's part of this spool holder piece. 20 grams of Bambu PLA plastic. I'm not sure why they bothered, but it's not much filament. And then we've got, it's like a PTFE tube. Some cardboard, some foam, so that's all going to go back in the box. So Don't throw it away. Here's everything just kind of laid out that I just unpacked. And it looks like, for the most part, the printer is pre-assembled. So I'm going to remove the foam. Kind of removed everything, all the packing tape. It seems to be moving nice and smooth. And one other thing before I assemble the AMS, I'm going to remove the sticker. Do not grab or press on the X-axis. Remove before use. First things, you're going to remove the Z limiter. And I'm using the toolbox that was included. It says to tighten the 3 heat bed screws. It's not talking about these 3. It's talking about the screws underneath the heat bed. I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. That's just to lock everything in. Because these screws are plenty tight already, so you shouldn't need to do anything there. Next up's the purge wiper. It just slides right in. You're also going to need this purge wiper screw. And that was in the toolbox. And it does come with some Loctite pre-applied. That's nice. And I'm going to go ahead and lay it on the side. Nice and tight. And next up, I'm going to need the spool holder parts, including the spool holder, the screws, and this little piece here. That's not going anywhere. All right, I've set it on its side for this next step, and I'm just going to remove that piece. It's like a covering, just pops out, and then there's a sticker that just needs to come off here. That's pretty much it for the printer. Now we're going to move on to the AMS Lite. Here are the parts for the AMS Lite. This is pretty simple. We're just going to flip it over here, make sure the cable's on the top, and then put it in. And looking at the AMS, you can see numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that's going to be important later when we start printing. And there's also numbers for the spool holder, so you know which spool feeds into which tube here. And we just need to put these 4 screws in, and these are going to go in on both sides in this area here. And before you start screwing things in, just make sure you're nice and lined up. You can see through the holes. I went ahead and did that. And definitely just make those finger tight, don't overturn them. Gather your spool holders, those are going on next. So these are all going to be color coded. There we go. Okay, that one's in there. I've got a yellow one, and that does look like a hex. So I'll go ahead and pair this one up. Okay, same thing on this side. Got a green one, and got a yellow one. And make sure you don't try to put a green one on a yellow one because those shapes are going to bust. I think the rollers are all good now. There's a little bit of tension on them when you try to turn them. Next up, you're going to need your PTFE tubing. There should be 4 of them in here. There's going to be long ones and short ones. And depending on which spool you're going to, you're going to use a different one. So I'll get into that in a second. There should be 2 longer ones. We'll do those first. Okay, the longer ones are going to go to numbers 3 and 4. And I'm just going to put those in right now. And the shorter ones are going to go in 1 and 2. And based on the video, this is 1, 2, this is 3, and 4. So I'm going to go ahead and do the longer ones first. So 3 goes here. And then 4 goes here. And then I'll take 2 of the shorter ones. We got 1 here and 2 here. And those are a little, I'm going to move that over a little bit closer. So there you have it. And to keep things nice and tidy, you get one of these, and you're just going to clip that in. And then clip all these other tubes into it. And I don't think it really matters what order. And this thing can slide around. That's not too bad. It's still a little messy, but I think it'll be fine. And now I'm simply going to plug in the AMS and make sure this is not you're not putting the cable over this because you want it to not cross. And you can use either of these ports. I'm guessing maybe at some point you can expand to 2 AMSs on here. So there we go. And then I'm just going to take the textured PEI. I'm a big fan of textured. When installing the textured plate, you're going to install it this way. I don't think it really matters. You could probably install it the other way, but it kind of fits. Kind of helps you align it with these little tabs in the back. And then this tab you can use to lift it up. So that's a pretty nice feature. And now everything is assembled. Oh, and before I forget, let's go ahead and peel this guy off. It's pretty much good to go. So we can plug it in and do our first print. And here goes nothing. Go ahead and powered it up. Let's see if we got some lights, some blinking lights on this. Unleash your creativity. Okay, I've went ahead and connected it to the Wi-Fi and gone through a couple of wizard screens, basically accepting the agreement and doing that sort of stuff. Now it wants to calibrate for better printing quality. So I'm going to go ahead and do this, and I'll hit start. And then it says it's going to take about 5 minutes. So it's already started doing some stuff. And I'm just going to let it go through and do this. This calibration process is very interesting. It's doing motor noise cancellation testing. And you can see the little real-time chart here as it goes through it. You can also see it's testing different speeds, like it's going 250 right now. And it'll test it on both the Y and X axis. I definitely noticed the X is a little louder in terms of movement. I'm not sure exactly why that would be, but there is grease on here. So, and it also did come with some, well, I guess it's oil, lubricant oil. But it sounds like it's kind of grinding a little bit, so I might end up putting some more oil on there. But I don't hear that noise on the Y-axis. Now it looks like it's going through some final calibration here. Now it's doing vibration compensation. I think this is probably a lot like input shaper on Clipper, because it's basically testing the resonance frequencies. You can hear the motors vibrating a little bit. And if you look really closely, you can see the head vibrating. And after input shaping is completed, it says calibration completed. And now I can go back and bind my printer and set Wi-Fi settings. So I'll go ahead and do that. It does look like there's probably some files on here. Yep, there's a Benchy. There's a Benchy with color. So a few different models on the SD card, bed scraper. And I think I can see there's several controls here. We've got filament, control, setting, assistant, filament. I can load it. I can either do it with the external spool or the AMS. Control, I can set the temperature of the bed and nozzle. I can load, it looks like I can move the extruder, the filament into the extruder or out of it. There's a light that was kind of under here that I can turn off and on. And there's a fan. And then I can also, see, if I hit X, so I can jog the tool head a little bit. I've got setting. Looks like it's got my Wi-Fi information, my account, which I haven't logged into yet. It's got my device. I can run LAN only mode, so it doesn't connect to the internet, so that's cool. And then I've got assistant, and then no assistant message, so I'm not really sure what that is yet. But that's pretty much the printer. So now I'm going to go ahead and get the software loaded. I don't even have Bambu Slicer yet. Something else that I really want to do is get basically a container that's going to hold the poop when I do when I change the filament colors. So otherwise it's just going to eject the poop wad onto my desk, which I don't want. So that's something you may want to do. I think there's several different mods available for that in the community. Bambu users, you can grab the Bambu Studio. If you're a new user and don't want to mess with software and advanced settings, then the Bambu Handy may be a good option for you. I'm going to start here because this is definitely more of what I'm used to. But one of the nice things about this Bambu A1 is that it is intended for new users. So I think the Bambu Handy is probably not a bad idea. And that's going to allow you to go directly from Bambu's site, grab a model, and then print it. Slicer, and now I'm just going through setting it up for the first time. I've unchecked these and checked the Bambu A1 Mini, and then I've picked the nozzle sizes that I have. I think I've got all those that were in the kit. So I'm going to go ahead and hit next. And now you can pick filament if you want. I do tend to get a lot of Polymaker, so I'm going to make sure those are all checked. Generic TPU, I print TPU, I print PETG. Overture, got some of that. So that looks pretty good. And then you can install Bambu Network plugin. It's going to download it and install it. I know some people may be nervous to do that. You can always uninstall it if you don't want it. I'm going to log in. After I logged in, I was able to pair my printer, and it detected it just right over the network. You can see in the upper left there. So now we can see the printer. And at this point, I should be able to go through and prepare a print. So I just need to find a print and load some filament that I want to use. Not long after I plugged in my printer and connected it to the network and paired it up with my computer, it asked me to do a firmware update. I'm going to go ahead and do that. It's almost done. Well, that's no fun. Update failed. Please restart and re-update. So let's go ahead and try this again. And we're going to try this firmware update again. And it looks like we're almost done here. Probably taking about a minute or two. Looks like we're good. Update successfully. All right. So now we got the nice little chime. So I'm not sure why it failed the first time. Okay, I'm using the AMS, but I'm only going to use one color. I suppose I could just use the spool, but I'm going to try it with AMS because I might load some more. I'm going to use this TPU here. After playing around with this for a minute, I didn't really understand what I was supposed to do, but I just kept putting the filament in here by holding this and eventually pushed it in. The filament is now in number 1, and it has a question mark on the screen, so I think it knows there's filament there. Unfortunately, TPU just did not want to work through this AMS, and I'm not sure if it was the AMS or the extruder. But I asked around on Twitter and people said, don't use TPU in the AMS, so I just kind of gave up at this point. Since TPU didn't appear to work, I'm going to try some trusty PLA this is pretty cheap Ziltech PLA. I'm going to go ahead and load this. All right. Now it's loading that up. Hopefully we'll have some luck with this PLA. Let me insert that back into the tube. It looks like the PLA was successfully loaded. I can see a little bit of the gunk here, so I think it's going to be happy now. Here's a close-up. You can see all that gunk. Quite a bit of startup. It looks like it's doing a wipe, maybe a couple wipes. It looks like now it's doing an auto-leveling procedure. And now it's going to have to get back up to temperature, and hopefully I'll start printing after that. We're back up to temperature. The tool head printed a purge line, and now it looks like it's going finally. First layer looks pretty good. No complaints there. That's very nice. Right out of the box. A very good first layer. The layer quality looks really good. I noticed a couple artifacts on the front, but this PLA is probably not perfect either. Hasn't been dried out recently, but it is working. I think for a first print with some older filament that I had laying around, that is not bad at all. Taken one of my coasters here, and I've added a second filament, and I use the layer tool, and I use the fill tool, or the height tool, and the fill tool in the color to color everything at above a certain level, basically. And I think that's what I want, so I'm going to give this a shot now. I ended up going through a few iterations to get this just right, but I'm very happy with the end result here. I'd like to give my initial impressions after using this 3D printer for a few prints here, including some multicolor prints. I know I've barely scratched the surface, but I think I've got enough information now that I can share it. So I think the first thing about this printer, it's definitely intended for people who are new to 3D printing and just wanting to get into it. I think that's the target audience that Bambu has even talked about. It really is easy to use this printer out of the box, no doubt about it. Within an hour, I was able to have this printer set up, including the AMS, and printing. And printing well. My first print, as I showed earlier, It wasn't perfect, but it was really good. And again, this was generic kind of Ziltech PLA. But even with the generic setting, I got results that I would say are within 90% of what it might take me a week to calibrate and get up to speed on one of my Voron, Trident, uh, Voron 2.4 or VZBot type printers. There is a lot of things that you have to do to get printers working well when you're not using a Bambu. Things like auto bed leveling, getting the Z height just right. Things like the temperature, the calibration of your print, the extrusion width, linear advance, all that stuff, right? With this printer, I didn't have to think about any of that. With people that are coming in new to the hobby, wow, I mean, it's great that you don't have to know any about that. People like myself who have been doing this for a while, you may be able to feel like you could probably get better results out of other printers. And I think maybe you can, but you can still go in and do that same calibration. The main issue that I ran into at this point is that I was not able to load TPU into the AMS Lite unit. And I think that's a known issue. I asked around on Twitter and a few folks chimed in and said, yeah, you can run it from the spool, but not from the AMS. I'm not exactly sure why that is. Maybe it's the mechanism that's feeding the filament. So that was a bummer. This printer is going to be great for PLA or PETG. It's not going to be great for anything else, including TPU, if you want, at least if you want to use the multicolor. ABS, ASA, I wouldn't recommend it. I don't even know if the bed can get hot enough for that, but the fact that it's not in an enclosure is also a problem. But even on the Bambu site, it says, hey, stick with PLA, PETG, TPU. So that's really what this printer is intended for. In terms of the printer itself, it's fast. I saw it, I believe it was printing around 250 millimeters per second, and it did look like it was getting there. I like the rails that are included. These are very nice rails. The printer itself is quiet, other than the fan. The fan was a little bit loud, especially when it was doing bridging. But this printer itself is probably the quietest printer that I now own. I'm going to continue to play around with it. There's some multicolor prints that I would like to do. There's also HueForge. I know you don't need an AMS to do HueForge, but I understand it makes it a little bit easier. Printing in colors is something that I've always wanted to do more of, but until now, it's just been a very frustrating, fiddly experience. And I'm still amazed that within the first hour of having this printer set up that I could be printing in color. I didn't have to calibrate it. I didn't have to worry about it going through a machine, and my filament being older and maybe a little wet, it didn't break or chip. So there's just a lot of really cool things with the AMS Lite here. The printer alone, if you're looking to get into 3D printing, it's a good deal. For under $300, this is a very solid printer. You could always add, I believe you can always add the AMS Lite later. I hope this video has been helpful for you, and I'm looking forward to playing with this printer quite a bit more. If you have anything you would like me to test or see or have questions, please give me a holler. Let me know in the comments. And thanks again for watching Greg's Maker Corner.